All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the Akim and if you walk out who may be listening. This is your brother Batakallah from the GMS camp here in Chicago, coming back at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai. Lord willing, this will be an edifying lesson. All right. And the title of this lesson is that we have the greatest blessing as Israelites. All right. So we're going to get these precepts, Lord willing. It'll be edifying. This is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 28. It says, "Therefore Yahweh gave thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and the plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee." All right, so this is the blessing that Isaac gave Jacob. And just to, put it in layman's terms, as they'll say, it's rulership over the earth. It's ruling in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which will allow us to have everlasting rulership once Yahushai comes back and establishes that. All right. So that's the blessing that we received as Israelites through our forefather Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel. Okay, now we're going to jump down to verse 37. We're going to get Esau's blessing. All right. This is Genesis 27 and 37. It says, "And Isaac answered and said unto him," Slakia, "And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" All right. And also a part of our blessing, and it mentioned it here that be Lord over thy brethren up in verse 29, is that all these heathens, they're going to be under us in captivity. They'll serve hardcore bondage for 1,000 years. After that, Edomites will be destroyed, and the rest of the heathens will be set in their lands that the Lord set aside for them. But they'll have to pay tribute to the Israelites, to us, the ruling class of the earth and the universe at that time. They'll be tributaries forever. But continuing on, it says, "And with corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" And Esau said unto his father, "Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. All right, because he understood that, and first of all, Esau had already relinquished his blessing and inheritance prior to this happening. All right, when he exchanged it for that lentil stew. All right, earlier in the book of Genesis. Now, he thought he was going to renege on that, but the Lord didn't have that in his spirit. The Lord had it to where we were going to always receive the blessing, and that Esau was always going to get what he got. All right, but Esau understands what this blessing that we've received is, and he's weeping because he knows that it doesn't end well for him. Verse 40, it says, or verse 39, Salakia, it says, "And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." All right, so Isaac is giving Esau a blessing, and Salakia, let me do that. And the blessing that he's giving Esau is that he will have a particular time to rule. All right, and he'll have a particular time to be over the descendants of Jacob, which are the Israelites. All right, you Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and you speckled birds whose father's line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are Israelites. All right, according to the scriptures. And this blessing, Esau is receiving an opportunity to rule over the whole earth, including the Israelites, and to have control over everything, which is what we are living through right now. Okay, Esau is currently the ruling power on the earth, and they currently have possession of all the resources and have the Israelites in captivity. All right, this is verse 40. It says, "And by the sword shalt thou live, and shall serve thy brother." All right, so this devil, everything His whole rulership is based on the sword, all right? Killing people and taking their shit, threatening people with violence and taking their shit, all right? Whereas our blessing was one that was a spiritual blessing, all right? We are going to rule, and, we've had times where, we were in rulership throughout the history of this earth, all right? Under King Solomon, under King David, these are examples of that. But our ultimate rulership, which will start when Yahushua returns and destroys this kingdom, when we're in rulership, it's all through the Spirit, all right? It's all through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It's the Lord that fights our battles for us. It's the Lord that preserves us. And that's why our rulership is going to be an everlasting rulership, because, and we're going to get this in a little bit, when Yahushua returns, our bodies are going to be changed. We're going to be taken out of this flesh and put into perfect bodies, and we will not go off no more. And us going off is what has put us in the position we're in, where we're underneath this devil, in captivity. All right. You can read the book of Judith, the 5th chapter, to understand why. But, nonetheless, all of that had to happen. But in the end, that's not going to be a factor for us anymore. And, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, we'll be in rulership for eternity. All right. And also we will be receiving immortality as well with that. But let me read this verse 40 again. It says, "And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." That's what we're living through right now. "And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." And that's the spirit that these devils have been in since that day. And even before that, because, through the Spirit, Esau is Cain reincarnated, and we know what Cain did to Abel, all right? Wicked, all right? Always, these devils always been wicked, and they've always hated us, all right? But we're going to get the book of Psalms, chapter 44 and verse 1. It says, "To the chief musician for the sons of Korah, Mashili," Salaki if I read that wrong, but "we have heard with our ears, O Yahweh, our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their days, in the times of old, how thou didst drive out the heathen with thy hand, and plantest them, how thou didst afflict the people and cast them out." So as I said, when we're in rulership, or when the Lord sets us up to be over these heathens, whether when it happened in the past or how it's about to happen in the very near future, it's the Lord who fights these battles for us and sets us up. All right. That's what it says here. Verse 3, it says, "For they got not the land in possession by their own sword, neither did their own arm save them, but thy right hand and thine arm and the light of thy countenance, because thou hast a favor unto them." And that's the blessing that we have. All right. It's not from our own volition that we get these possessions, or that we are going to be put in this position. It's going to be through Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. Whereas these devils, their blessing, and it's still the Lord that has set them up. Make no mistake, everything that happens, the Lord has to allow it to happen and sanction it to happen. But, for the point, or for the sake of this lesson, these devils, their rulership comes from force, comes from threats, comes from weaponry. The Lord is not really dealing with them. Yes, the Lord has set them up to have a rulership for a season, but that was only, for our punishment and betterment. All right. They're not going to be able to continue to do what they're doing. They're going to run into a certain point in time where, they reach a bounds that they cannot pass, as it says in the book of Job. But, our rulership is going to be different, because Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to have favor on us, and is going to be with us forever. Once we get these new bodies and can't go off anymore, there's not going to be anything that will separate us from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in the Spirit. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 51. It says, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." So this is talking about when we get the new bodies. All right. It says, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. All right. So when Yahushua returns, you know, those of us, Lord willing, you know, we be at that number if we're the elect, you know, we're going to be beamed up. And when we get beamed up, we're going to receive new bodies. We're going to be taken out of these chains of darkness, this flesh. And we're going to be given heavenly bodies that can't go off or break the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. And that's going to make it to where we have spiritual powers. We're immortal, and we can't be separated from the Lord no more. All right. Right now, we are, as a people, now those of us that are the hopeful elect, you know, the Lord has welcomed us back and has given us an opportunity to endure to the end and receive salvation. But those people who are not of the hopeful elect, they're closed off from the Lord because they're in sin. They live the life of sin. All right. And not to say that we don't make mistakes or commit sins, you know, being of the hopeful elect. We are all in this flesh. We all commit sins. But the mindset behind those things is different. All right. We have a contrite spirit. We repent, and we sincerely, you know, to the best of our ability, try to make sure we don't become repeat offenders with the Lord, man. All right. Outside of the mistakes that we are going to make, you know, we're not willfully doing it. These niggas that's in the world, they're willful sinners. They don't care about the Lord. They don't care about repenting. They just want to do what their flesh tell them to do. All right. And those people are cut off from the spirit. Okay. But once we're in the kingdom, you know, going off is not going to be a thing for an Israelite. All right. Therefore, we won't be cut off from the Lord. This is verse 54. It says, so when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. All right. And, you know, you watch all these superhero movies and all this Marvel and DC, Superman and all that shit. This is what we're going to become when we receive these new bodies. All right. And this is what these devils hate. And this is why, you know, one of the reasons why we have the greatest blessing. All right. The number one reason why we have the greatest blessing is that the Lord is going to be with us. And that's really all that matters. OK. But you look at all these heathens, and they're living deliciously right now. You know, these devils are currently, you know, living in their blessing, even though it's coming to an end and they're on the downside of it. You know, they're still in their blessing. You know, this is still their kingdom until Yahushua returns and destroys this place and they're put in captivity. All right. But hey, man, we don't got to worry about that because we got something way better coming, you know, in the very near future to us. We don't care about what these devils got, you know. To be honest, hey, man, you should be, anytime one of these devils got something to say, hey, man, just tell them to live it up and enjoy themselves, man, because they're running out of time. But this is Revelation chapter 5 and verse 1. It says, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. All right. And this is talking about the word. It says, and I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof. And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither look thereon. All right. So the scriptures were sealed at one point in time. All right. Let's keep reading. It says, and I wept much because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders saith unto me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loosen the 7 seals thereof. And that's talking about Yahushua and the sacrifice that he made. All right. That's what put us in position today to have access to this word, to have full 100% understanding of this word, and to be able to do what we got to do, the Lord willing, receive salvation. All right. This verse 6, it says, and behold, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of Yahweh sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. All right. So, hey, when you're praying to the Lord and you're praying, that to Yahushua as well, guess what? These prayers are brought forth to them, man. There are angels that are in charge of hearing these prayers and bringing them forth to the Lord and to Yahushua, man. So keep praying, man, to myself first and foremost. It says, and they sung a new song saying, thou art worthy to take the book. Hey, and real quick too, Salaki, on with the prayers. Hey, these heathens can't pray, man. Edomites can't pray. I mean, they can, but it ain't going to work. The Lord doesn't hear the prayers of the wicked. These wicked 2/3 niggas, they can't pray. None of that works for them. All right. That's another part of our blessing. And we actually have access to that on this side. All right. So we need to be using that, man. And like I said, to myself first and foremost. But this verse 9, it says, and they sung a new song saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to Yahweh by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So Yahweh's sacrifice is what has given us, access to this word and to this truth. And that's also a part of our blessing. Edomites cannot be in the truth. All right. Other heathens cannot be in the truth. You got to be an Israelite to be in the truth. And this is not a how you look thing. All right. Israelites come looking like all nations. OK, for the record, we always say it, but we got to keep saying it for you people in the back. All right. We're not saying that if somebody looks a certain way that means that they're Israelite. It's about your spirit. OK, so there are certain individuals who may look so-called white, but they're Israelites. All right. Look so-called Chinese, but they're Israelites, and so on and so forth. But in order to hear this truth, you got to be an Israelite. In order to have access to this blessing that we talking about, you got to be an Israelite. All right. And us being able to hear this word, understand this word, teach this word is a part of the blessing that we received. All right. And it's something, once again, like with the prayer, that we have access to on this side. These other nations don't have access to this, man. All right. This is verse 10. It says, and has made us unto our gods, kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. And that's our blessing, man. And it's better than anything that any of these heathens got. All right. So we always got to keep that in mind so that you understand what you're fighting for. All right. Because, as the Spirit has been saying, we coming into hard times, man, and not nothing that we can't deal with, and it's not nothing that the Lord is not going to get us through. But you still got to prepare your mind to deal with the things that we about to get ready to have to deal with, as we get closer and closer to Yahweh's return. So hey, stay motivated, stay positive, and stay disciplined, man, and just keep pushing, because we're almost out of here, man. And remember, hey, we got the greatest blessing. All we got to do is hold up our end of the bargain, man. So with that, we're going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rukakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the Akim and a few Agwath who may be listening. Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. Until next time, Shalom, Wa Abba Ball.